If you're watching this video, it's because 2026 is about to be your six-figure year. My name is Lucy Superfox. Welcome to Lucy Superfox Show. I'm going to be diving into the story of my very first six-figure year and what it's been like to be consistently turning six figures for the last 6 years. And I'm going to be sharing a little insight into the shifts that I've made along the way that have allowed this to be not only something I did once, but something I've done with 3 completely different businesses. So right now, if you are in that 2 to 5K solopreneur turnover energy and you're like, oh my God, get me to 6 figures already, then you are in the right place. So without further ado, let's dive in. Today is actually a very special episode because today is the very last episode of season 1, which is exactly 1 year and 50 episodes into the Lucy Superfox Show. So congratulations for making it this far. If you are a regular, one of my regular listeners, if you are brand new to this channel, do not worry. Season 2 will be back soon. Slightly different format, slightly different vibes, slightly different energy, but you've got 50 episodes of season 1 to catch up on in the meantime. I wanted to talk a little bit about my 6-figure story, how I came to create my very first 6-figure business, how that then evolved into my second 6-figure business, and how the lessons and the learnings from those first 2 informed what I'm calling my third 6-figure business, but the most easy, aligned, beautiful iteration of business that I've personally ever experienced. And with a business that has the biggest map to growth, the biggest kind of trajectory upwards at the biggest pace. I'm going to take you right back to the beginning. 2016, just being disillusioned with my job, just feeling so frustrated. And whether I worked a 40-hour week or a 60-hour week, I got paid the same. And I was an event manager, right? So I would travel a lot for work and that wasn't always compensated. And so as much as I liked the actual job that I did, I found myself feeling under-challenged, under-motivated, and then having to deal with all the corporate bullshit
oh, well, you went to an event at the weekend, so that's why you're tired.
So I'm not allowed to go to my own personal events at the weekend. That's the reason I'm tired, right? That's the reason you don't think I'm performing. Absolute bullshit stuff like that. Once somebody else got promoted before me because they'd been there longer. I was like, I'm sorry, what has that got to do with my performance, right? So anyway, I just had this distinct, overwhelming feeling. And really, it was at the beginning of my personal development journey, doing the work on my mindset, my emotions, and my belief systems, that I really realized that I was never going to actually feel the way I wanted to feel inside a job. And that I was going to have to create that flexibility and freedom for myself in starting a business. And the likelihood is, if you're watching this, you're probably a solopreneur, probably already making money from your business. It's just not the level of money you want to be making, right? So this was me with my job. I was on a 40K a year salary, which I think distills down to about 2.5K a month, which, for some people, that's a big amount of money. But for me, I lived in London. I had some debt that I'd accrued over time. I still had student loans. I had a mortgage on a house with my ex-husband, but my lifestyle wasn't great because I couldn't afford to do anything else. And I just knew that I wanted more. I wanted something different. I wanted to be able to do life on my terms and all that cliche stuff we hear. So I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to quit my corporate job and I know what I'm going to do, because I had been in the body transformation space as a bikini athlete for 6 years at that point. Yeah, I've been in the kind of industry as a competitor. I'd helped a couple of female friends get ready for shows. I realized I had a bit of a knack for it. And I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to officially train as a personal trainer and I'm going to officially take a nutrition qualification. That's what I did in this kind of what I call the quiet season. So before I announced I was leaving, before I kind of made my big moves, I went away and I actually did retrain. And even though I've been doing some of it without all of that and I had a good level of knowledge, I was like, I want that for me. And sometimes some of us can get caught up in qualification-itis, where we think we need 94 qualifications to go to the next level. But this was about ticking the basics and making sure that I actually had the basics, right? I retrained and then I took on a couple of clients, just 50 quid a month type situation. And that was great because it helped, pay for extra bits, and it also helped me pay off my credit card, slowly. And I did that for about 4 months before I actually was like, right, it's time to quit my job. Now, I knew the day I was going to quit my job. It was the 31st of July, 2016. I was like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And I think the final straw was when somebody said I couldn't go on vacation because somebody else was on vacation at the same time. And I was like, we work on different clients. We even have a different account managers. We run different teams. And I was like, okay, sure. Get me the fuck out of here, right? I was like, I'm going to quit my job. And I actually quit my job, weirdly enough, pretty much 9 years ago today. So at the time of filming this, which is at the end of August, I quit my job basically just before the bank holiday weekend in August. 9 years ago. And I was on a 3-month notice period. So I was, because of the clients I was working with. So I knew I had to do it then if I had any chance of getting away. And I actually walked away from my corporate job in November 2016. So from the point I resigned, I went all in on building my fitness coaching business. I went deep dive, aggressive, referrals, getting in front of people, getting into the gym every single night, even though I wasn't working there yet, officially until the November Like I was just there, I was present. I was like, can I run a boot camp? Can I run posing camps? Like, can I, I was all in. And so I kind of walked away from my job in the November, having just enough money in the bank to pay for 3 months worth of mortgage payments. And that was it. I didn't have savings. I'd managed to get enough money together to kind of put into my joint account 3 months to cover like mortgage and bills. And I was like, well, if everything else is a bit rough, or, it is what it is. And after 3 months, I had matched my corporate salary, which was insane, which was about 2.5K-ish a month. Then a couple of months after that, I did my first 3K month. And then summer of 2017, I was doing 5 to 6K months. And those 5 to 6K months were incredible. I doubled my corporate salary within a year, which just absolutely like blew my freaking mind. Now, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I wasn't working. It wasn't like I wasn't grafting. And this is one of the biggest lessons I could share with you about my 6-figure story, right? Is that it was graft. I was grafting my freaking ass off. I was personal training, and this is the thing. I was doing the 5 to 6K months, but I was paying gym rent, right? I had a lot of debt to pay off. I had student loans to pay off. So it wasn't like I was enjoying and seeing that money. And then I had to get my shit together when it came to tax, right? So I actually did decide to start a limited company when I crossed that 5K a month threshold. I was like, I want to be smart here. That VAT threshold at 90 was 85K, then it's 90K now. At kind of 85K is going to come around that corner so real fast. I was optimistic that I was like, sugar plums, I'm going to have to get organized. So I would say I leveled out. Where the money came from pivoted and shifted for the next kind of 6 to 9 months. And then as I kind of approached the end of 2018, things were really freaking moving. So basically, like I said, I leveled out. I kind of doubled my corporate salary for over a year. And then at the end of 2018, things started moving and shaking. And this was really the introduction of where my second 6-figure business came from. So I'm going to break down for you how each of my businesses became 6 figures. But the introduction of my second business, which was network marketing, I'd had it since 2016, but really where it started to deliver me a paycheck, like a real, like actually noticeable, life-changing kind of money, was at the end of 2017, so through 2018. So what was happening in 2018 is 2 businesses were building at the same time. So 2 businesses were providing me that kind of 5 to 6K a month. And then what happened was in 2018, the first business, so my coaching business, blew up. And I mean, was like 8K months on its own, right? So not quite at the 6-figure threshold, but it was almost there, plus what was coming through the network marketing business. And then in 2018 to 2019, that is when both of the businesses blew up at the same time. And so what happened was the coaching business was doing 6 figures. And actually, I remember the exact moment that I did my first 8.5K month from coaching. I remember exactly where I was. I was stood by the French windows. The sun was gleaming in, and I opened my phone and I did the kind of like refresh the bank balance thing. And there was like 8,600 and something in the bank account for that month. And it was like the 24th of the month. So it wasn't even a done month. And that was just from the coaching, because I had separate bank accounts for the network marketing and the coaching, in fact, separate limited companies altogether. And I was like, oh my God, I've done it. Oh my God, I've done it. And this wasn't a busy month. This wasn't like big enrollments. I didn't run my business like that. I ran my business on referrals, organic social media, and it basically built upon itself. So then what happened was I was like, oh, this is amazing. And that energy propelled me forward. And that business then did its first 10K month about 3 months later in the September. Yeah, it would have been June. That business did its first 10K month in the September. And then what followed is that kind of steadied out, because realistically 10K months as a kind of transformation coach with a mindset piece, really that's a lot of clients, right? It was at that point anyway, at that price point, it was a lot of clients. And I reached a point very quickly in that year where I was like, I cannot take on any more clients because I'm going to drop the ball here. And so I had to start upping the prices and also changing the model and where the money came from. And this is really when I took a 6-month kind of aggressive pivot into my network marketing business, where I was like, you know what? I want to create, like, I know I can do this. I love what I do, but I want to create it with more freedom behind it. I want more leverage behind it, so it's not all me doing the work. So I kind of threw my attention and focus for 6 months into my network marketing business at the end of 2019 into 2020. And then by April 2020, in fact, my paycheck at the end of April 2020, just for my network marketing business, was £13,325 on top of my coaching business, right? So what I was then doing, and I'll be totally honest, each of these businesses came with it levels of responsibility and pressure and time and energy levels. And I wasn't somebody who understood nervous system regulation back then. I wasn't somebody who understood really boundaries other than things like working hours. I really wasn't somebody who really wanted much outside of my career. Like, I'd measured myself against my career for so long that I didn't really want for anything else. I just wanted to create great money, live a great life, have some nice trips, and spend time with my boyfriend at the time and my now husband. And I wasn't really like bothered about anything else outside of it. Like I didn't believe in work-life balance because I was like, that's right for some people who've got kids, but I don't really have a life outside of my work. Like I like to do things, but I want to do them with work people. So I want to do client days, or I want to go on retreats and stuff. And so I kind of really was very much in my hustler mode. And it really, and I've talked about this at great length in this podcast and videos, is like, it wasn't until 2021 where that all kind of started to come crashing down and I just couldn't keep up that really I took any different of opinion on that. So I was running 2 six-figure businesses by summer of 2020. And then in kind of the November 2020, I was like, I don't want to do the fitness coaching anymore the way it is. I don't want to be helping girls get skinny and ripped and helping them, sacrifice and go on crazy diets. Like I'd found a place with food myself where I was like, you know what, like this isn't about chasing never-ending destination. I don't want to constantly be trying to get leaner. I don't want to be constantly thinking about my life in 12-week blocks. I was like, I'm done. And so it felt so disconnected and disingenuous for me to continue competition prep. And so I did really consider whether or not to keep it from a lifestyle perspective and work with non-competitors. But I actually felt I was really, really ready to pivot just into the mindset and business coaching side of what I've been doing. So obviously I worked with a lot of personal trainers and coached them and also provided mindset support. And I just really knew that's what I wanted to do. So I basically closed the business. So my very first 6-figure business, I closed it. And some of my clients got handed off to 2 of my friends, and then everyone else I gave the girls like 6 months notice, right? So they could either finish competitions with me or phase out and move on. And they've all gone on to do absolutely incredible things. And so everyone who's in Team Superfox, shout out to you. Once a Superfox, always a Superfox. And so yeah, I kind of wound the business down and then really just lent into the mindset side of things. I had a signature course, which I still teach, is a very different course. It's actually landing again this September. So if you've never been part of the 6-week Shift Accelerator, holy moly, it's going to blow your socks off this September 2025, because it is a brand new version loading for those women who want to leap into their 6 figures, right? Which is what we're talking about. But it was a very different 6-week shift back then. And I was kind of lent into that, and I was taking on 3 or 4 clients for that. I was running it like as a monthly thing. And my network marketing business was still doing kind of top end of 4 figures. It wasn't quite doing the 5 figures, but it was doing like the top end of 4 figures. So I was still turning, with everything I was doing, 6 figures. I had a 6-figure life. And then it was kind of really, like I said, in 2021, it was the September of 2021 that emotionally things started to come crashing down. And like, I wasn't doing so well. Like I started to, and as the phrase would go, cracks started to appear. And it was during that time that I was like, I actually don't think I can keep doing what I'm doing. I don't think I can carry on the way I've been carrying on. And I'm not sure what that means. And I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know what the next evolution of my business is going to be. As long as I can keep creating enough money to live level at this life, because that's the thing, right? Once you up level, and I hadn't been particularly strategic with like investments. I had a pension, but I wasn't like particularly shit hot at saving, because I've been fucking living hard through that pandemic. I was like, every chance I got, I was going on holiday, right? I was escaping the prison sentence. So my savings weren't really where I'd want them to be. But so I kept going. I kept plugging away. And then I was offered a consultancy position. And this is a position that I could have done in my sleep. And I said yes. It was only supposed to be like a 4-month thing, but very well paid, right? So another the 4-figure paycheck going in from something I could do in my sleep, gave me a bit more structure to my week. It was part-time consultancy stuff. I was like, okay, cool. And again, this is where the universe will always show up for you when you're at that level. So if you create the minimum standards of a 6-figure life, you will live life at 6 figures no matter what you end up doing and no matter where it comes from. But it's simply about raising your energetic baseline to that level. And this is, something I talk about a lot inside lots of my masterclasses and when I talk about manifesting, but it's what feels normal. It's what feels safe. It's what feels expected. If you're thinking about listening to me talking about 6 figures and that makes your stomach flip over, your nervous system go, whoa, then you're probably not ready, right? And you're going to have to do some identity work and some shift work to move into that. But that was the life I was playing at, right? That was the level of life I was playing at. And so I was VAT registered, so there was levels of responsibility around VAT and needing to make certain amounts of money to be able to pay my VAT and my corporation tax and personal tax. Like, there are responsibilities that come with growing a 6-figure business, a limited company or incorporated company if you're in the US, that you don't have when you're a solopreneur. But I wanted that. I said in my last podcast, this was about me taking empowered responsibility of the business I had. But emotionally and mentally, the cracks were appearing, and I was like, what the frick am I going to do? So the consultancy came in, and it really provided that kind of stability, I think, and that consistency when I needed to wobble up and down. And so what then happened is I actually took a break from live one-to-one coaching. I took a year, actually. I took over a year of coaching. So I had some small digital courses that I sold, and I had people purchase those, not in any kind of massive scale, because obviously I wasn't promoting it. And I just allowed my network marketing business and the consultancy to support me all the way through until February of, yeah, that's right. From February 2022 to February 2023, I didn't do any one-to-one coaching, I don't think. But timelines are so, when you look back, you're like, oh, did I not? It wasn't active. It wasn't my primary focus. And then in February 2023, I was like, I'm coming through the end of this healing season now. I feel like there's a lot of clarity. And, you know, realistically, I actually wasn't at the end. I had a lot more work to do. And really that clarity really came in the end of 2024. But it was like seasons. It was like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, right? So I'd allowed my network marketing business and my residual income and what I built from that to support me alongside the consultancy. Again, creating 6 figures. I wasn't earning less. I was still living life at the same level, even though I was taking a lot more time for myself. You know, some days I was sleeping, 12 hours a night, 4 hours in the day. Like my nervous system needed to rest. I needed to process. I needed to do my inner stuff. And I say to clients all the time, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. And that's what was happening to me. I had all this unprocessed trauma, all these unfelt feelings. I had so much work to do on myself. As a mindset coach, as a life coach, I had fucking loads of work to do on myself so that I could actually be authentic and not just be somebody who was preaching practices and systems that were outdated or didn't apply to my clients, right? And then it was really when I kind of got back to it, was really when I created the Becoming course, which is my deep healing transformation program for women who are burnt out or on the edge of it. And I created that program as an expression of what I'd been through, but I also knew it was the thing I was supposed to teach. And so that then evolved into recreating and redoing some of my courses and recreating programs. It evolved into me training as a root cause therapist on top of my life coaching. And so it really was the beginning of the evolution. And then what started to happen in 2024 is I really started to recalibrate to who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I remember, and this is where the Lucy Superfox show came from, from the old podcast, which was The Way I See It, into this one. I kind of last summer, I was really ready to move in a new direction. I was ready to step away from network marketing in terms of being a supportive income stream. I was ready to move into a place where Lucy Superfox really stepped into her own, became her own brand, really lent into where I was great, which is the life coaching and then what became the root cause therapy as well. And that was where I wanted to focus and lean in. And I wanted to evolve that business into its own entity without needing the support of the other things. So that's really what's been happening over the last 12 months is that I've been building Lucy Superfox as a pure brand, pure mindset, pure life coaching and root cause therapy with digital programs, courses, digital products. I have been building that into its own 6-figure empire. The really great quote that was often used in network marketing, which is, I don't say this to impress you, but impress upon you, is that I have actually not earned less than 145K a year, despite going through everything I've been through and despite evolving my business 3 times. And that's not to sit here and be like, ooh, look at me. That's to sit here and say, because once you build the energetics, the systems and structures to support you, then it's actually just about what you want to do. It's actually just about designing what it is you want your career path to look like or what you want the next version of your business to look like, right? And actually there are 6 shifts that I teach, and those 6 shifts, you can get them actually in a free guide. I'm going to comment, I'll drop the link below. It's lucysuperfox.com/6 shifts. You can get my free guide there, which are the 6 shifts to shifting into your 6-figure self, going from kind of that 2 to 5K a month mark into consistent 10K months. And so where I sit right now is I've just actually closed my very biggest month ever in August 2025. From just Lucy Superfox. I think my largest ever month was 27K in a month. And that was back in 2022. And then we're almost touching that 20K a month mark again, just from one income stream. So that was back when there was multiple income streams. And now we've got this, and I have multiple income streams within one business avenue. So that's one business avenue. And so again, don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you what's possible when you get really clear about the mission, when you get really clear about your identity, when you get really clear about what you're available for, what's safe, who you know you are, and you build a business that serves people, that provides something that people not only need, but they desire. And you get to provide that for them as a choice from the energy of a 6-figure CEO and not from the small-minded energy of a self-employed business owner, because they are different things, like I talked about in last week's episode. So I I sit here right now as somebody who is not going to set lofty goals. I'm not attached to how much money I earn. This isn't about going, right, in 2026, I'm going to do a 500K year. In 2027, let's go a million. If that happens, amazing. Then I've calibrated it. I've stepped into it. It was obviously what was meant to be. It's obviously who I was ready to be. But that's not what it's about for me, because setting goals is not a business strategy, right? Setting goals is something that's on your heart's desire. It's what feels good. It's what feels amazing. And, you know, all of these lessons and learnings that I've had over the last 5 years led me here. Everything led me here. It led me to the creation of one of my newest programs, the Goddess Code, which is just the most beautiful program. That was me working back through, how did I want to create my business? What did I want my business to look like? Where do I want my business to go? Why am I out of alignment? Where am I doing things as I should? And building a whole program that walks women through how to start from zero and take it all the way to building that aligned, deep spiritual business, through to now being ready to move into what I call growth season, you know, helping women move into their 6-figure CEO self. They've got the business basics, they've got the foundations, and they are ready to take themselves to that 6 figures in 2026. So that is why I made the free guide, right? The 6-shift guide. And you can get it going to lucysuperfox.com/6shifts. You can get it below in the show notes. And this is where and why I am also doing the brand new version, the reloaded version of the Growth Season Masterclass, taking place on the 19th of September. And you can register or get the replay, lucysuperfox.com/growth below. So my 6-figure story doesn't end here, but what I wanted to share with you is that the principles and the shifts that I break down in that guide are the ones that have helped me create 3 independent 6-figure businesses and generate no less than 145K a year for the last 6 years. So if 2026 is your 6-figure year, my love, then you can join me inside the guide or the Growth Season Masterclass. The links are in the show notes below. And I hope that my story shows you that no matter what you go through, no matter the hardships, no matter how much work you still feel like you have to do on yourself, your 6-figure CEO era is still waiting for you. So I hope you loved this episode. This was the last one of season 1 of the Lucy Super Fox Show and episode 50. And we'll be back soon with season 2.